Fantastic. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Tableau and Figma workshop presented by the Denver Tableau User Group. I'm super excited for you all to be here and for our upcoming workshop and presentation today. So real quick, just a real quick agenda, just some welcomes, some introductions, real quick announcement around the Denver Tug, and then we'll get into the workshop. We'll have some Q&A and then closing. Please throughout today, put any questions, comments in the chat, where you're coming from, any questions while Kevin's going through today on the workshop. We'll be asking those from my perspective. There is no unmute right now until more near to the end when we open it up a little bit more, but we'll be watching for those questions. So again, welcome. Super excited for you all to be here. For those of you who are joining us from around the globe, the Denver Tug, it was just a little bit of history. The Denver Tug was originally established in 2012 from a 35-person lunch and learn way before I was even in Tableau. And we've been doing meeting in and around the Denver metro area. We have some photos just from our most recent in-person event. That was the first one we'd had in about a year. At Prologis. Thank you to Prologis, Tableau, and Lovelytics for helping put on that event just a few months ago. So super exciting. With that said, your Denver Tug leadership, my name is Lawrence Durbin. Twitter and LinkedIn there. I am a Tableau social ambassador, help co-lead the Denver Tug, help co-lead the Data Pride Tug, do a lot of work across there and work with a bunch of different community groups. And I'm super excited to introduce Jason Phillips, who is coming in as a new co-host into the Denver Tug. And actually, with that, Jason, don't know if you wanted to introduce yourself, say a word or two.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be part of the group. I'm looking forward to working with everyone. I know we have a lot of people here from a lot of different places, so we'll get to Denver business the next time we're together. But thank you for introducing me, Lawrence.
Of course, super excited to have you on and to help with the Denver Tug. Super excited. And so real quick, just a quick announcement. As many of you have probably seen, if you're part of other tugs and everything else, we are moving to a brand new platform called Bevy. And you should have gotten emails to sign up and join for multiple different events and multiple different things through that platform. To join ours, the link is there. I'll be posting that link later in the chat as well, so you can join and learn more from the Denver Tableau User Group. We do a lot of virtual and working on more in-person events, so everyone's welcome to join. And so with that, I promised I wasn't going to take too much time and give Kevin the majority of the time for today. So I am super excited to introduce Kevin Wheat, Tableau Public Ambassador, 3-time Viz of the Day awardee. Kevin started using Tableau in 2019, Figma in 2021, leverages both Tableau and Figma in data visualizations for work and personal. I've gotten to know Kevin over the past year through the Data Fam and the Tableau community, have had him present at other Tug events, and he's been a pleasure to get to know, amazing inspiration across the board. So I'm super excited to have him go through this workshop with us today. So Kevin, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to give it all over to you.
Cool. Just to make sure, can you hear me?
Yes, sure can.
Awesome. Let me share my screen. Cool. Let me know when you can see it.
Sure can.
Sure.
You're good.
Good. Now, first of all, welcome everybody. I'll be giving some talk about myself more and about Figma. So if you haven't done so, please sign up for a Figma account if you would like to follow along for today's hands-on workshop. And Lawrence will be dropping the links in the chat so that for anybody that missing any links or informations or joining late, please go to figma.com and register for an account. You just need to use one of your emails to validate the account as I speak. So now let's begin. Today, we will be talking about how to create a background image for business dashboards within Tableau environment. And my name is Kevin Wee. Just a little bit about me. First of all, I am a Chinese Malaysian. If you have seen any of the award-winning movies lately, you will realize that we often speak multiple languages. I personally speak 6 languages. So later, if you hear any kind of weird grammar going on in the audio, that's because that make sense in a different language. So just put that in perspective. And I used to be a molecular biologist. And about 5 to 6 years ago, I decided to pursue the PhD in the evaluations of scientific animation. And then in the process, in the journey of doing so, I came across Tableau and started to use it to do more and more of my analytics work. And eventually, I became a full-time data analytics and visualization developer in a company called Discover Financial Services. For those who are not from the United States, it is a credit card company. And like what Lauren said, I used Tableau starting in 2019, and 2 to 3 years later, I came across Figma and decided to learn more about it because it seems like it's a very user-friendly app. And then after that, I've been using both in my daily work and my personal project, and it's been helpful to me. So today I'm sharing more about that. And I'm a Tableau feature author, and I recently being chosen as a Tableau Public Ambassadors. And I personally love to experiment different ways to visualize data and information. That's why if you go to my Tableau Public account, you see a lot of non-conventional charts. Not that I do not know how to create tables or bar charts, but I've done so enough at work. So in my personal time and my personal projects, I love to try something new and special. And like I said, I'm currently a senior Business Intelligence Analyst at Discover, which is based in Chicago. Now let's talk more about Figma. What is it? I mean, if you've joined here, chances are you know a thing or two about it. It's been claimed to be very user-friendly, very easy to use compared to Adobe, but has more functionality compared to PowerPoint. And later I'll show you why. And more importantly, it's a web-based design tool. So it's similar to Google Sheet or Google Slides. Multiple people can chime in simultaneously to collaborate, and then you do not have to store anything on your laptop. You can use your laptop or your work laptop to access the same account and then do the design on both ends. So it's been quite convenient. And similar to Tableau community, it also has a lot of free community-based instructional videos and learning resources on the internet, on YouTube or on Google. So it's been very easy for users to pick up how to use it. Definitely, I have been benefit from doing so. And a lot of big companies been leveraging Figma in developing their own app. I personally know that Discover is using Figma to design our own phone app, and I believe Tableau Public Team's been using Figma to do so too. So it's been it's very widely used. So, and I think today I'd like to introduce you to a mindset that being a business dashboard developer, you are also designing an online app. So we might as well just use the tool that people have been using to do so. If you go to Tableau Public, especially this of the days, you'll notice that a lot of business dashboards made by the ambassadors, by those power users, a lot of them has fancy images that often are made using Figma. So the data fam community has been using this in their data visualization practices a lot. And after years of explorations, I found that we can use Figma to do prototyping, to do background image creation, which today I will be talking, and or to create an annotation layer, which next week on Thursday, I'll be talking at the analytics talk. And there's some fancy other things that we can do on Figma. for Tableau Dashboard that later, if we have more time, I may show you more examples. But now let's dive into the topic. So this is a Tableau dashboard. Other than the rounded, square, rounded cards, there's a lot of things that actually a lot of elements are done on Figma. For example, the left bar, the left navigation bar, the logo, the menu, the export group, even the title and the button here, all of this are done using Figma. And the most impressive things are everything that I've just said earlier, they're all in one image. You do not have to import multiple images onto Tableau, Tableau file to do so. You can just use one image. And today I will teach you how to create that one image. So if you have not done so, Lawrence, could you please provide the links again in the chat for those who need them and those who wish to follow along? We will be doing about 45 minutes to 50 minutes workshop for you to follow along how to create a business dashboard using Figma. You will see a Figma worksheet that you may download. You may see a dashboard, which is the final product that we will be showing you, and a Google folder containing the company logo, the fake company logo, and an example of the background image. Cool. I'm going to give you guys about 1 minute to settle in. And meanwhile, if you have multiple monitors, I recommend you to put my face on one monitor and your own creations on another, and then get all the files, create a Figma account on figma.com if you haven't done so, and download the file. Cool. Other than Lawrence, can anyone else give me a sign in the chat telling us whether you are ready for us to move on or not? Cool. I can wait for 1 more minute. It's no problem. And now I'm gonna change into out of presentation mode into my actual files. Cool, we see more and more hands up. Okay, now I'm gonna start showing you what's on Figma. First of all, let's talk about today's anticipated learning outcome. By the end of this workshop, you should be able to create a new Figma file on your own, create a background image that can be used on Tableau Business Dashboard, and apply that image on Tableau file. And later, if we have more time, I may show you how to use a semi-transparent annotation layer and put it on your Tableau dashboard just for future reference. And I'll share more. You will have access to more online learning resources that are free and often made by the DataFam community. So now let's move on. Here, you will see a lot of handy shortcuts. There will be no quiz today, and you do not have to memorize any of these shortcuts. But these are the most common ones that I'd like you to know. It would make your creation process easier. For example, zoom in and out. Later, you'll see me do zoom in and out a lot. Basically, just click Control or Command, and then scroll your mouse. You can zoom in and out like that. Or to move things completely horizontally or vertically. For example, here I create a square. I can move things on 2 dimensions, right? Or diagonally like that. But if I were to move things just horizontally or just vertically, click Shift and hold it, and then drag that object. Now it would only move on one axis. Cool. These are the two main ones that I like you to remember. The rest, I'm just going to talk about them every time when I create an action. Now, let's look at this Figma 101 worksheet. For those who download this file, this should be what you see now. Cool. Does anyone need more time to access this Figma worksheet? Thanks, Lawrence. If no, let's move on. First of all, let's talk about how to create a new file. To create a new file, here's what you're going to do. You can go to your Figma.com. When you click it, you will land in this place. I mean, chances are you do not have any files, which is fine. When you click this new design file, it will bring you to a new page, just like Microsoft Word. In this space, you can draw anything on it. You can write anything on it. And then you can, on the top, center top, here, the untitled, when you double click it, you can type in the name however you like. That is how you quickly create a file. That's how you quickly create a file. Now let's go back to the worksheet. I'd like you to introduce you to the lay of land, basically the basic UI of Figma. On the top here, you can see that this is the file name, which you can change by double clicking it, like I mentioned earlier. And if you move counterclockwise, you will see that on the left here, we have a lot of icons here. This is the cursor. If you only want to move your cursor around instead of using any of the scaling capability, you may click it. And here, this hashtag icon is actually a frame. A frame is just a fancy way to call the canvas of your creation. And then this is the one that you will use a lot. It has square, rectangles, ellipses or circles, triangles, stars, line, and arrows. And for you to input an image. We're not going to talk about this. It's out of today's scope, but it's a pen for you to draw free form lines. And then we have text for you to create text boxes. And then hand just for you to move things around. Okay. And then on the left here, it seems very intimidating and complicated, but it is just very similar to the layout hierarchy in Tableau Dashboard when you're making it. Basically, from the bottom to the top are layers of object, from the bottom layer to the top layer. So the things on the top should be the thing that's on the upmost layer. And on the right side, this panel is actually a panel for anything for the properties of anything that you click. For example, here, I'm just going to quickly draw a circle in the middle. You can see that when I click the circle, it tells me that the X coordinates, the Y coordinate of the circle, the width, the height of the circle, and then the fill is just the color of the circle. Like now, that's the fill. Stroke, it's the line. Like, let's go very dark. Like that's stroke, just the outline of the circle. Effects are some special effects like shading, like shadow. Like now you can see that it has a shadow. Cool. I'm gonna, put it here. So this is the basic layout of the land. Later, we'll encounter them many times. Now let's move on to the next frame. Pun intended, it means in this frame, we will be drawing a frame. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit by clicking Command or Control and then scroll up. So on the left here, let's create a frame. A frame is this object. When you click it, on the left, you can draw a square like that. And a lot of people, recently one of the Flourish twins he has a viz about what's the common dimension for Business Dashboard. Every company has its own culture and practices. I personally like 1308 and 800. So again, I'm going to do it again. Click the frame, draw it, and then here at width and height, I type 1308 and 800. You can use the tab on your keyboard to move things around. So that's how you resize a frame. You can resize it by using this 2 entering number here. You can also resize it by just dragging it like on PowerPoint. And the most impressive thing, it's one of the many impressive things about Figma is you can do mathematics on the dimension. For example, here, I just want the height to be cut off by half. So divided by 2. Now it's half size. And I didn't like it. Now I want to double it. Now you times 2. Now it went back to the original size. And you can also do things like, do you see that when you put your mouse on the ladder, you see the left and right arrows. You can click it and then hold your clicking and then drag. Now you can have a very fine-tuned manipulations of the frame like that. I've seen Greg ask, what can one duplicate a frame? I'm really, really glad that you asked. For example, I create this small frame, right? I want to duplicate it. Click it, Control D, it's duplication. Control D or Command D if you're using a MacBook. And you can do Control D on everything on a screen. It can be an image, a text box, or a shape or a frame. Cool. And now let's talk about how to rename a frame. So when you click on a frame, you can see that on the top left, it call it frame 68 because that would be the 68 frame in this file. But if you double click it, you can rename it this Kevin new frame. Alternatively, you can click it and you can see that on the left side here, you can also rename it here, new frame 101. These are 2 different ways to rename a frame or anything on the screen. The other thing is to edit the color. So color, like I said earlier, it's the fill. So here you can change this to, let's say, gray. You can add, when you click the color window will pop up like this. You can either drag this circle to whatever color that you want, or you can type in the hex code. That's gray, very, very light gray. You can also use RGB value or different kind of values whenever that you see fit. Now let's talk about creating a grid. A grid is like horizontal and vertical lines on a canvas that later we can use them to guide the placement of different things in the frame. So here on the right panel, you'll see something that called layout grid. I'd like you to click it. When you click it, you see that all the frame that I use to put things very organizedly, that's the grid. It looks very intimidating at first, but let's zoom into only one object. Okay, I'm going to boom this up to original size again. So by default, Figma has a grid of a size of 10 pixels. This is amazing because on Tableau Dashboard, we are also using pixel instead of centimeters or inches as measurements, meaning that here we can design things to be exactly where it is. And later on Tableau Dashboard, we use same grid size as a guidance when we place new charts. That will make sense later. So here, when you click the grid, I'd like you to change the grid size to 12, just to show you that you can manipulate the grid size. You can also change the grid color or transparency, just to make it 100%. Now you can see it's very prominent. Cool. You can also add different kind of grid. For example, or you know what, because of the time constraint, I'm not going to talk about different kind of grids, but feel free to play with the columns and row grid later when you have the chance. But for the sake of time, I'm not going to talk about it. So now we have this grid. You're going to be like, okay, we have a grid. PowerPoint, we can create a grid too. So what's the big deal here? The big deal is when you create a new object and put it on a frame, in a frame, it will click and align with the grid very easily. So now I'd like you to click the object on the top left here. I'm going to use this rectangle real quick here. This is a rectangle. I'm going to zoom in a little bit using Control and then scrolling my mouse. You can see that when I move things around, right now, you can see that it's not on a grid. But if I move it around, when it can easily click on a grid. If you are following along, you can play with this feature a lot. You can significantly tell how sensitive it is to align any object with a grid compared to, let's say, doing so on PowerPoint. Cool. Now we talk about a grid. So we have grids to create objects, but sometimes we want to see the final product. We don't want to keep seeing the grid throughout the creation. So how do we do that? If you were to control the show and hide of one grid, you can click this eye icon. You can close the eye to hide the grid or open it to show the grid, or simultaneously for the whole file. If you want to control the grid showing and hiding of the whole file, you can use your keyboard and click Shift-G to toggle between show and hide. Shift-G. Cool. Now let's talk about creating shapes and text. So here in this frame, let's talk about creating different shapes and text. I mean, we have encountered some of them earlier, but let's review them systematically. First, let's talk about a rectangle. Rectangle, you can draw a rectangle like this, and you can change the fill or the color of the rectangle like that. To create a text, you can use the T, click it, and then here we can type the text like that. And for text, on the left, on the right side here, you can change the size of the text like that, make it extra bold like that. You can also change the color of the text like that. And reshaping the text and the shapes very similar to what we have been doing with the frame earlier. You can just reshape them like this, or using the control on the top right here. And I like to talk about the border as well. For example, this is the square, right? When you click the plus sign on the row of the stroke, you will summon a black outline. You can decide whether the outline should be within the square or outside of the square or in the middle of the outline. Gonna make it thicker so that you can see. So that's outline outside of the square. That's inside the square. And that's in the middle. And if I make it transparent like this, you can see that now it's like half inside, half outside. If I make it inside, it's completely inside. Okay, so that's how you make a square. And the most people often know something's made using Figma if we have rounded white cards in the dashboard. That's why a lot of people use the rounded white card. There's nothing inherently special about it. It's just a way to tell people that, look at me, I have a purple iPhone, so it has to be a new one. Look at me, I have a rounded white card in my Tableau dashboard. It must be done using Adobe Figma or something fancy like that. So now let's talk about how to do that. So a square, white color is F. And then effect is how you put a shadow like that. And then you can decide the X and Y dimension of your shadow. The blur is how blurry it is. And spread is how big you want it to be. Like that. So that's the shadow. And to make it rounded, make the edges rounded, here you can see the rounded icon here. Click here and type any number that you want. I love the multiples or factors of 12. So we will be using 12 here. So that is how you create a white rounded card with a shadow, just like this one. And here I've actually made these 4 elements here so that you can see their property. By clicking here, you can see that it's pure white. And then the drop shadow, I used the value of 2, 6, 12. And then this is a specific color. And the transparency of the shadow is 6%. All of this sound very fancy, right? Very overwhelming, a lot of information. And you do not want to have to go through all of those clicking to format your square, just like my square. So how can we speed this up? Introducing tip number 2. On your mouse, I'd like you to click this square. Click that small square that I have created. Now on your keyboard, I'd like you to, if you're using a window, click Control Alternate C. If you're using MacBook, it's Command Option C. Click it. And then on the big square that you have just created, click Control Alternate V or Command Option V. That's the shortcut key to copy visual properties. That's the shortcut key to copy visual property. I just did it with the white card, but now I'd like to do something fancier. How about this very beautifully brown gradient shade square? I want to copy the property. Let's do it again. Control Alternate C or Command Option C. And then now in this triangle, click it and then Command Option V or Control Alternate V. So now we have a different shape, but identical visual properties. That's how you keep different visual elements on your screen consistent. Thanks, Lawrence, for the tip. Now let's talk about how to draw arrows, which you may need sometimes if you're writing some annotation. To draw an arrow, click the square here or the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4th icon on top, and then choose arrow. Now let's just draw it like that. Cool. That's an arrow. Again, you can control the arrow color. You can see that on the bottom here, these are the colors that I've used frequently for this project. I'm just going to pick one of them. And then here you can choose both ends of the arrow, whether it should be circle or just flat line or an arrow like that. And also you can adjust the thickness of the line like that. And to create something curvy like this, I'm going to elongate this a little bit just to make the point. To make a curved line like this, again, select the object that you want to and then double click it. You can see the middle point here, right? Click it, hold it, and drag it. And you can drag it like this. If it's 90 degrees, it will become something like this. And then once you move your cursor to the center of a different segment of the line, the midpoint, it would have a white circle pop up again. Click it and drag it. One more time. When you hold your cursor above a line, at the center point, you will have a white circle. Click it and drag it. Like that. That's how you create an arrow with curve, with like corner. And then in the rounded edge here, you can change this to any number that you want. Let's do 24 to make things more obvious. Does anyone have any question about this so far? If so, please put it in the chat. If you have questions and typing is too much work, you can raise your hand and have your cameras on as well. Are we good, Lawrence, so far? Cool. Can you show me how to make the line rounded? Okay, let's do it one more time. I'm going to delete this arrow. Draw an arrow. Here, that's an arrow. You know, I'm going to draw it diagonally. And then here, in the arrow, click it one time and then click it, double click it. When you double click it and move your cursor to one of the segments, at the center point, you will have a white circle. Click it, hold it and drag it to anywhere that you want it to be. Now you have something with a corner. And then on the top right here at the corner radius, just put in whatever number that you want to make it curved. Martina, did I answer your question? Awesome. Now let's talk about show and hide a shape. Let's say I create so many things here, but sometimes I don't need them now, but I don't want to delete them because later I may need it. So you can, on the left side, on the left panel here, within this frame, this object, you can click this eye icon to hide it or show it or hide it. You can also do something like this. If you click this lock icon on it, now whatever you do on the screen, you cannot touch it. You cannot move it. It's literally locked on the frame. This may come in handy later when you create a lot of complicated object within the frame, but you want to fine tune only one thing. You can lock the rest and make sure that you don't mess them up when you're changing one thing. I'm going to unlock it for now. Now let's talk about equally split shape. So this is a white card, big white card here. I'm going to make it black so that we can see the effect more prominent. Let's make it brown instead. Again, copy, Control Alternate C, Control Alternate V. That's how I copy the visual property. And here, I would like to introduce you to a free plugin called Split Shape, which Lawrence earlier has put it in the chat. I'm going to put it again here. I would like you to come to this Split Shape plugin and then click try it out. When you click it, it will automatically install it to your environment and later you may use it. It's called Split Shape. It allowed us to equally split one shape into equal parts with a preset margin, preset number of rows and columns. If you've done so, when you click that object and then right-hand click it, at the plugin part, you will see something that's called Split Shape. You see something that's called Split Shape. Again, right-hand click the object that you want to create multiple of, and then go to plugins, and then click Split Shape. You will see a pop-up window like this. It will ask you how many columns, how many rows that you want, and then gutter is the spacing in between them. Margin is the spacing at the outermost part. We're not going to touch the margin today, but let's create something like this. Let's create a 2-column, 1 row like that. So when I click it, it will split it in half. And then the spacing between them, you can see the spacing is exactly 12. I'm going to do it one more time for this small one. Again, right-hand click, plugins, and then go to Split Shape. Now I'm going to separate this into 1 column, 3 rows like this. You can see how using this, we can quickly create different segments for our Tableau dashboard, which later I'm going to show you. Now let's talk about spacing. When we design a dashboard to make things more organized, we need to space things, often maintain the same spacing between things. But sometimes when we create different objects, let's say we have a big object like this, a small object like this, and then something like that, it's hard to make sure that the spacing is correct. You don't want to like manually push them like this and then do the math on the left to figure it out. So here's a trick to organize size on Figma. Select all the objects that you want. And then on the top right corner of the right panel, you see the more option icon, click it. And then you can click distribute vertical spacing. Now it'll distribute like pretty. Well, I guess I did a very good job earlier, so it didn't see much of a difference. Let's do it again. Select all 3 objects like that. And then when you click distribute vertical spacing, it will distribute. Did I just nail it by accident again? Okay, how about like that? Okay, and then click it, distribute vertical spacing. Okay, now you can see that it's automatically distributed vertically. And here it's the magic. You can fine tune the spacing between things. For example, let's go to 12. Now the spacing between things would automatically be 12. Or better, now let's align everything to the left. Now they're all aligned to the left. You may find this very handy later when you're creating a dashboard with a lot of moving elements. Cool. Are we following so far? Can I get a thumbs up from anyone? Cool. Very good, very good, very good. Great. Now let's look at real cases. We've been talking a lot about theories. Someone, after prototyping for multiple rounds, send you the low fidelity prototype, or this case is a whiteboard drawing, saying that we need to create something like this for a Tableau dashboard. Can you make it happen? So what do? You go to Figma and then you quickly put together something looking like this. On your file, I think I have hidden this mockup and the background images. So please find them on the left panel here. You can just click this eye icon to show it. Can I get one thumbs up if anyone have seen this in their file? Because I need to know if you're not seeing it. It's called mockup. Good. See that from Brian. Awesome. So this is the file. This is how I made. It seems, hopefully by now you can see that these are just things put together in a OCD arrangement. I'm going to use the grid to tell you how everything's organized. Shift G, Shift G. And zoom in a little bit, you can see that on the left side here, I drew a rectangle that's yellow. Rectangle that's yellow. I'm going to move the color. Yep. And then here are just a group of menu. You can see that I just put them together like this, and they're all equal space, I think. Yeah. And then we have export menu, and then we have my name at the bottom, and then we have the title, the subtitle. They're all aligned to the line as much as possible. And then we have this giant white card here that's just aligned to the grid like this. I'm gonna Shift G to hide the grid again. And then here, how do we get from this to this? Here's the trick. Remember the plugin that I've just shown you? You can use it as follow. Click that white card, right-hand click, plugins, split shape, split it into 2 row, 1 column, gutter as 12. Click split. And then we're going to repeat it to the bottom. Right click, plugins, split shape, 2 column, 1 row, 2 column, 1 row. I'm going to speed this part up. It's repetitive. 3 column. Now we have something similar. And then when you open the grid again, Shift G, you can just go in and then just adjust them like this. Click all of them simultaneously and then move them. Click them and then move them like this, because everything's in a grid. It's easy to keep the spacing between them right. And then we can do something, a very, very quick, very, very quick organization like this. Okay, close enough. So that's how we adjust the spacing. And the trick is, once you have one of these templates, in the future, in the same company, for the same project, you just need to keep on changing the arrangement of the central grid, because the thing on the left and the thing on the right and the top, they're always the same. You just need to double click it and then change the name. Or here, click it a lot of time until you reach it, and then change it to profit like that. So that's what I did. To save time, this is the final product. Shift G to hide the grid. This is how This is the one that I created, and this is the one that we will be using later. Cool. So this is split shape. This is shape and text. Now let's talk about icons and logo. If you're working for one company, you will have the company's icon often in the vector file, or you're working for multiple companies, you need to ask for their file. So how do we import an icon or logo to manipulate it? On the top left here, you can click it, and then you will see, oh, sorry, here, 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth icon. Click it, and then you will see place image or video. Can you, I'm going to talk about this and I'll answer someone's question. So click the fourth icon and then go to place image, click it, and then you can just upload an image just like how you would have done so on PowerPoint. Or better, if you already have that image on your desktop, you can just click that image on your desktop, drag it, and then put it in. That's how you do it. I'm going to do it again. Click the image on your desktop, hold it, and drag it in. Cool. Let's look at someone's questions. Can you show how it's resized by enabling the grid? How it's resized by the enabling of grid? I think what he meant was, how did I resize it in the grid? So here, I'm going to quickly go back to the original state. So open a grid like this. And then when I split things, when we split things, it will be split equally. It's up to us as the user to manually change it. When you drag it, because you have the grid, it will click to the grid very easily. Even though now I'm not zooming in, I know that it will click to the grid perfectly. For example, now when I zoom it in, you can see that it's really, really on the grid. What's the format of icon that I recommend? PNG's been fine to me. SVG is better, but it's a little bit problematic if the icon has shading. But PNG, it's more than enough. Now let's come back to the icon here. So now you have the company icon. So how do you size it? If you only use the sizing like this, you can see that it will move quite freeformly. Sometimes you will mess up the spacing between left and right. So to avoid it, click and hold Shift when you're dragging the size of the image. Now you won't mess up the spacing on any of the edges. I'm going to do it again. Hold Shift and then drag it. Now I'm going to do it on this dashboard. I'm going to bring it here. I'm going to zoom in by Control and then scroll. And I'm going to put this on the top right, like this. You can see how easy it is for me to click it and then Shift and then drag it in. Boom. This company has a logo. So that's the final product. Now let's talk about exporting the final product. So to export the final product, there's several tips here. First of all, when you create a dashboard, sometimes you have a lot of placeholder. We need to get rid of those placeholder before we export the dashboard. I'm just going to quickly find this one real quick. This one, yep. I'm going to unlock it so that I can click it. It's called background image complete. So here are all these functionalities included in the free version. Yes, I haven't paid a penny on this one that I'm using for the demonstration. So everything that I can do here, you should be able to do it there too, Greg. This is the image. We can see that the date available, like this placeholder here, we don't want it. So you can click it, and then on the left side, you can click the eye icon to hide it. And this is the dashboard. And then here now on the bottom right corner, you have something that called export. I'd like you to export. And then to make sure that it's really sharp, the resolution is really like high, try 2 times the size. PNG is enough. And then at the dot here, I like you to select include bounding box. I find it works better. I have no idea why. And then now when you click export the file, you shall be able to find it in the download icon. You should be able to find it in the download folder. I'm sorry, the download folder. Cool. Now let's make this happen. Now let's make this happen. So how do we go from here to here? Let's move the environment and go to my Tableau public dashboard. Lawrence, if you can put that link in the chat again, that would be appreciated. So if you go to my Tableau public, you will see this dashboard. I've opened it for everybody to download and play with it. So feel free to click that edit icon or the download icon to create a copy. Just credit me. That would be appreciated. Okay, so this is the dashboard here, what we're looking at. The dashboard has a lot of functionality. It has a lot of charts, right? A lot of things here. So how do we make this happen? First of all, I have to say that you have to create the charts first, and we're not going to talk about how to create the charts. I have made them for you. It's all on the left side, labeled in purple. All of these are charts using Tableau font and then some special color that I invented. Now let's start with a blank page here. And due to the time constraint here, I'm not going to walk through all of these steps, but I have already provided steps on the bottom here. You can just follow it while you watch this video later, but it'll make sense in a moment. So first of all, create an empty blank dashboard. And then at the dashboard size here, create the specific width and height. And like I said earlier, on Figma and on Tableau, we're both using pixel system. So here, just enter the size of the width and the height of your frame. Everything should match perfectly. And then here in the image, I like you to click it, drag it, and then place it in the middle. And then here in the choose, you may choose whatever image that you want here. And I think I have chosen the background image here. I'm going to do it again. Choose an image file. Make sure when you insert the image, you need to click fit and center. Fit and center. Okay, let me try to find my screen is a little bit blocked by the Zoom interface. Well, but you get the idea. If you download the image, if you just download the image, you can just put the image here, the center, like this. And you will see a lot of weird spacing between the left and right and up and down because Tableau likes to automatically space it for you. So here in the layout session, I like it to remove all of this spacing. Remove all of this spacing. I'm currently in tab number 2. I'm currently in tab number 2 called plus background. So once you remove them, the frame should fit like a glove. So yeah, we have just done the adjust image padding. So I'm not going to repeat that. And then now at the 4th here, let's add the charts in. So here, all the charts will be put in floating. And then all you have to do is just click it and drag it in. And then sometimes you have to hide the title to place things. And sometimes you can include the title like this. I'm going to quickly do one more example like this. And I often move all of this to the side for later consumption. And you'll be like, oh, it's so hard to do this. Well, here's the thing. You can summon the same grid on Tableau Dashboard here. At Dashboard, click it, and then Show Grid. And then Grid option, choose 12. I already chose 12 earlier. So here, now you just have to do the alignment that I've just told you. Put things like this. And then here as well. align them like
Kevin,
this.
is that grid only available in Tableau Public, or is it also available in Tableau Desktop?
All of them. It's
Thank you.
it's in dashboard and then show grid and then grid option. But you can tell that on Tableau, it won't click like it is on Figma. Okay, I'm going to show you 2 examples. So basically here is what happened when you place all of them on a screen perfectly. And then here you see that it's very close to the edge. So it's kind of like suffocating to read. So to make things slightly breathable, let's introduce some white space surrounding each chart by, let's do 12. Like on each, for the outer padding, just change it to 12. Yeah, that's that one, change it to 12. Now it looks slightly better, but without compromising too much of the space. And for this whole stack as well. Cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, good for now. Now let's talk about a special tip here. You will notice that a lot of people, when they create a KPI, there's no tooltip there, but when you click on it, you will see the white shape around it. It's a little bit annoying. So, and the date too, like you don't want to have this box happening when someone's clicking it because there's no additional information beyond that. So what you can do is you can create a blank. Basically, the metaphor is you put glass surrounding the queen's crown so that no one can touch it. Like that. So now what, when people use your dashboard, when they click on things by accident, they won't click, there would not be any like random blue box occurs. Cool. Now let's look at, I was going to say something, I lost track. Okay, cool. Adding cover, which we have just talked about. So this is the business dashboard. So is there a way to avoid floating objects when using an image background? Usually I would put the image background as the only tile and then float everything else. If you want to put the charts and the controls, the filters in a tile, that tile has to be floating. Did I answer your question? For example, here, you can see that the filters, it's not all tile. They are 3 container within, it's a tile container called filters, but this container itself is floating. Cool. So basically that's it. That's how you create the dashboard. It's with completely out of today's scope, but if you click through this, you will see that I also added an annotation layer in the dashboard, like this. Like basically you place a floating image above it with the same size that's semi-transparent. I will not be talking about this today. I will talk about this next Thursday in the analytics talk. Maybe later we can share the link with you. And then with a show height icon, you will create something that look like this. So now this is a functional dashboard. When you click on this icon, you will see the annotation layer. And then on the left here, all of this menu will be functional. Because of the time constraint today, we will not be talking about how to create them, but it's already been made. You can dissect this dashboard after downloading it for your own consumption. Now let's go back to the, oh, thanks, Lawrence. How can we make to feasible in terms of size of the dashboard automatic to the aspirations of the end client who's viewing it? It's always not recommended to use automatic sizing because even one client would have so many different sizes of monitors that your stuff will just keep on floating in different sizes. And sometimes the spacing is too much, or sometimes the circle is too small. So I would always recommend people, I think we all we often recommend people to use fixed size dashboard to avoid this issue. However, I have to say there's a way to address your concern. I'm going to get out of this view for now and not saving any of my work. Let's say now you're seeing it from my big monitor. It's very spacey, right? But you will notice that because the dimension that I made is very close to the golden ratio, which is 1.618 to 1, the golden ratio, it can be scaled very, very well. So I can click Command or Control plus. It would fit the monitor quite well. You do not have to make the dashboard in automatic size. That would mess up the spacing of everything. Again, Control or Command plus and minus to adjust the zooming effect. I hope that answers your questions. Cool. Now let's go back to the presentation, just for me to, close the statement here. Several things. First of all, let's talk about resources. There's so many more resources that you can access. And Lawrence can put the link. It's in the Google Sheet, Google folder. A lot of YouTube channels, a lot of links. They're all free resources for you to learn more about how to use Figma in a more advanced way. There are also a lot of data fam ambassadors, power users on Tableau Public that I'd like to encourage you to check their Tableau profile. They create a lot of very practical dashboard that's also beautiful. So sometimes you can have both. And if you go to Tableau Public, go to Business of the Day, go to specifically the Business Dashboard session, you will see more examples. And if you want to see some non-Tableau people creating dashboard, you can go to Dribble and Behance and type in the corresponding keywords to find more information. And here are some takeaways. Let Tableau do data visualizations and let Figma take care of the rest. Figma take care of the fancy, beautiful stuff and keep your Tableau purely on analytics power and then combine them both at the end. And leverage Figma will really accelerate your dashboard productions, especially you want to create consistent design dashboard multiple times. And I hope that by the end of this workshop, you will find it less intimidating when you look at a fancy image because they're just made of boxes, texts, shapes, and arrows, arranged meaningfully, of course, in a frame. And this workshop should be the chapter 1. For you, this should not be the end. Like today, what you learn now, you will be able to do more exponentially as you use the tool more and more. And I encourage you to be experimental, make some mistake and share it with all of us when the time approaches. So by that, I'd like to special thank Lawrence for inviting me to this talk. Really appreciate it. And Chantilly, Lindsay, Autumn, and Robert, they have passively taught me so much about how to use Figma via their learning resources. And of course, Discover, which is my team, for allowing me to use Tableau and Figma integratedly in our professional setting. We have seen a lot of use cases and we will continue to experiment more and maybe share more in the future. So with that, some promotion material. Next Thursday, I will be talking the analytics talk and about how to create the fancy semi-transparent annotation layer. So if you like to join us, that would be great. With that, I'm going to pass the mic back to Lawrence. I'm sorry, I think I used some of your time.
No, actually, we still have a lot of time scheduled for today. But real quick, so before I'm going to open it up for more people to come off mute here in a minute. There was a question from Emmanuel. What if the chart doesn't look good in the predefined box? You can go back to Figma and edit the box or edit the chart. What's your items there?
Yeah, I get where that question is coming from because you don't always nail down how big a KPI should be or how wide a line chart needs to be to make sense within the context of your business. So what I usually do is I will go to my Figma, put the first trial on my Tableau dashboard first. And then sometimes, let's say this, what if the box that I made in the first trial is just too narrow and then nothing's showing? Oh, I'm sorry, that's the cover. What if the dashboard that I made is just too narrow like this and there's nothing showing? So what I would do is
you want to share your screen?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was sharing my screen. Good call. So like usually what happened is in the first trial, I will put everything on the screen first, and then usually it's the KPIs. It's like, oh, KPIs, like that space not enough for the KPI. Let's say it's too small. So what would I do is here on Tableau Dashboard, I would just do a quick estimations of how much space I need. I was like, is 250 enough? Okay, 250 seems enough. Like, how about a little bit lower? Like, how about 228? Oh, I'm sorry, that's huge. 228. 228. It's good. I will find the minimum working space and then later go back to Figma. And because both are using the same pixel dimension, I'll just here make the adjustment real quick, export it, and then replace the image. The quicker you do it, the quicker it gets. Yeah. But yes, that's been my tips. I hope that I answered his question.
Yep, thanks. Awesome. So with that, I think, first off, thank you. I know from my perspective, this has been absolutely fantastic seeing you go through this, walk us through this. I've also learned a few different things about both Tableau and Figma that, while I've already been using it, and I think a lot of the tips and everything that I learned about Figma was from your previous one with the Florida tug. I learned a lot more. So first, thank you so much. This has been an absolutely fantastic presentation. I cannot wait for your analytics tug event next week as well. But for me, from going through this I know from my perspective, I'm not a designer. Like, I personally, coming up with this, even in the first place, is way out of my zone. I definitely work more on the technical side. And for me, I go towards the UX, UI design platforms that typically my company has. And that's kind of where I default, because it tells me the padding, the spacing, the things to do like that.
Mm-hmm.
What are your suggestions for people who maybe like me, who are more on the technical side, that want to do the data viz, not the design, or those who maybe work in companies that, maybe they don't know where the brand guidelines are, things like that, to go and then do this there? Like, what are your suggestions for those?
I'm so glad that you asked this question, because when I first started using Figma for my very first project at the company that I'm working at, I had no clue, right? I was like, what color should I use? What font should I use? What font size should I use? And then I realized that because I am also a customer of my own Discover credit card company, we have an app. So what I've been doing is just try my best to create something that the app has. That's number one. If you have a final product for you to look at, you can just try to mimic that style. Number two, if you're working for a medium to big size company, they would have a UX UI team designing the website or the app. Talk to them. They're more than happy to tell you everything down to the pixel. Like, I'm gonna tell the hex code of the color, and then you can only use this. So yes, so you don't have to create things from scratch, but sometimes you do. Sometimes you are the first person in the whole company that realizing that we lack a branding guide or color palette. So what do? In the Google sheet that I've just provided in the link, one of them is called material design. Material design has a lot of style guides, icons, and then they have some detailed instructions on how to use them. So go check those famous style guides from, let's say, Adobe, let's say material design. You do not have to, you're not alone, and you don't have to, please don't create things from scratch. It's too much work. We are analysts. We're paid to do analytics. These should be make it done one time, and in the future, we keep on using the same component over and over again. Hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did. And then one more, and then I'm gonna, let people come off mute. The grid situation. So, as we go through, you put 12, and we were just talking about, material design and the brand guidelines with the gridding.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, the fact that Tableau has show grids would have saved me so much headache with my UX designer when I was going through design, feedback sessions. How do you use that? Is it just you put all the grids spacing, your 12 pixels or whatever, and then know that if you have one grid box worth of space, you're good? How do you use that and implement that both in Figma and Tableau?
Well, first of all, when I use it on Figma to create the background images, I use it mostly to guide the position and spacing of the white cards. As you can tell earlier, the title's always going to be, if you're in a company, the title's always going to be in the same place. Of the tab and the tabs and the export part, they're always going to be in the same space. So those, you just set it there, let it sit. It's the spacing of the white cards in the middle that needs guidance. And for that, I use the 12 size grid to put things together. That 12 is more of my personal choice. I fully recognize that a lot of people that's been working in UX, UIs, they've been using number 8. I try to use number 8. I find it very crowded, like make me very tense. But yeah, that's a personal choice. But as long as you have a consistent grid, it's good. The second thing that I've been using is the grid. As long as the grid on your Tableau and the grid on your Figma is the same grid, you can do a lot of like back and forth measurements real quick. And that's been helping us. And oh yeah, one more thing that I was gonna say, which I shall share my screen. Here, screen. And share. Okay, cool. So this is the final dashboard, right? And then here, when you open the dashboard, and let's say I'm going to unlock everything. Here, when you double, triple click it, you see the XY dimension, the XY coordinates and the dimension of that white card. And guess what? When you go back to Tableau, here, you enter the same number, things will fit like a glove. You have to do the math, just need to back and forth to get a number and then get this number, these 4 numbers to here, and then it will fit. You don't have to do the whole like left 2 points, right 2 points to see whether things align or not. So it's a very convenient guidance.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And I'm going to, so everyone should be able to unmute yourselves, please open up. If you have questions, anything like that for Kevin, comments, please. Floor is yours.
Michael, Michael has a questions. He asks, I haven't used the grid view option in Tableau before. Does it have a snap grid to grid feature for folding tiles? Unfortunately, no, but perhaps when we meet the Tableau developer at the conference, we'll nag them about this. Yes, Tableau do not have that. PowerPoint has it, but it's very clunky. And it's on inches system, so it's annoying. Mildly to me.
I will say, utilizing this background design and all of that, the background image, personally I'm tiled versus floating. So, it goes floating and then tiled and not floating. So kind of brought me over on the floating side of the house personally.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's worth paying for the professional plan if I'm the only analyst? I've been using Figma for 3 years. I've not paid for a cent. So don't do it. I would not recommend it. If you're the only designer, you do not need the inter-person communication part. You don't need the draw a flowchart part because you're the only person that's doing it. So I would advise against it, Emmanuel.
And
I'm a very cheap person.
I know from my experience, a lot of companies actually go forth and have plans with Figma. So it may be covered under an enterprise license as well. So look at that too, as well if it's for your work side also. Fantastic. Anyone else have any other questions? Want to come off mute?
Yeah, you can ask questions via speaking. And I'm going to put my social media link. Oh, you already did it. Cool. I was going to say that if you want to ask questions in person later, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, LinkedIn as well.
And I'm just going to repost all those links again for everyone for throughout that we've talked about throughout, and to connect with, you know, the Denver Tug as well, and then also all the Figma and links from today's workshop also. So if there are no other questions, you know, comments, anything anyone wants to bring up, I want to once again really thank Kevin for coming and talking and giving us this presentation today. It was absolutely fantastic. I want to thank everyone for joining. It was so fantastic seeing people not only from Colorado, but from around the world on our event today. And, you know, thank you so much. Any last words, Kevin?
No, thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you so much for this knowledge sharing sessions. Absolutely happy to connect, to share more ideas, not just talking and teaching. And yeah, I'm definitely happy to see people from Germany and Spain and Chicago as well, my local people.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Kevin. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are. And this recording will be up on Tableau's YouTube site within the next few days. So thank you all.
See ya.